coin is flipped 3 times, give a sample space of equally likely outcomes. Well, one thing we would not want to do is just say we could get 0 heads, or 1 head, or 2 heads, or 3 heads, because these are not all equally likely. So that's not a good way of going about this. Instead, let's think about kind of how we did the sample space, or the subsets before. For the first coin, we essentially have a choice. We could say the coin goes tails or heads. For the second coin, we have another choice. It could go tails or heads, depending on, for either of these. So there would be 4 different possible outcomes we'd get there. And then the third coin, we could again go tails or heads. And if you kind of take these in order and you can see, okay, well, we went tails, 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 that would be that one. If we went tails, tails, heads, this would be this one. And then we could go through and label all these. Tails, heads, tails. Being careful to keep the right order. Tails, heads, heads. Heads, tails, tails. Heads, tails, heads. Heads, heads, tails. Or heads, heads, heads. Well, you can see we get 8 different equally likely outcomes, and this would be my sample space right here. All of these things. That's my sample space of equally likely outcomes for flipping a coin 3 times. So if I wanted to figure out what is the probability that exactly 2 of the flips are heads, well, I need to look through here and see, okay, in which of these outcomes did I have 2 heads? Well, this one does, this one does, and this one does. Tails, heads, 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 tails, heads, or heads, heads, tails. Kind of makes sense. You could, if we have the 2 heads and only the 1 tails, that tails could occur either the first, the middle, or the last coin. So, in any case, if we're trying to figure out the probability of getting exactly 2 heads, well, the size of E, there are 3 outcomes in E, 3 outcomes in my event where I got exactly 2 of the coins coming up heads, and there were 8 total outcomes. Let me actually write this like this: n of E over n of S, which is 3 over 8. The probability I get exactly 2 of the coins coming up as heads is 3 over 8.